let me get this started. Okay, hello, Jonathan.
Hello, hello.
Yeah.
Yay, Brad.
Hey, so I'm first of all, thank you for taking time to have a little talk while on your walk. You're on this walk on your book launch.
Woo! Oh, here,
Yeah, I want to say congratulations. I've been following your journey. There you go. Walk, slow down. Could you say the name of the book and hold it up again?
yeah.
There we go.
Walk,
Well,
slow down, wake up, and connect at 1 to 3 miles an hour.
yeah. Nice. And as you shared with me earlier this year, you wanted to be in your practice when launching the book and on your feet and walking. I absolutely love that. As we were just saying before I started recording, as we both know, walking is the best medicine. It's practice,
Yeah.
everything. So I'd love to hear just where you're at, where you're going, where you've been, all of it.
Yeah. Thank you. So I mostly live in Colorado and in Denver, and we had started off the book tour with, several local events in Colorado that went really well. See, here we go, just showing you. And so those went really well, and then I knew that I wanted to do as you said, I wanted to be out moving for days at a time, getting creative with how to invite people into the book and stopping at different bookstores. And I've always wanted to do a longer distance walk. When I did my walk across the US in 2010, it was Delaware to San Francisco, kind of right through the middle of the country in the US. And since then, I've always wanted to spend some extra time in New England, kind of coastal New England, and kind of, arrive in either New York City or Philadelphia. And so for a while, I was just teasing out what would feel good in terms of timing and route, and it just landed making different connections. I realized I had more connections in New York City than in Philadelphia, and then just really wanting to start in a place that's new for me. And so Providence, Rhode Island is a new area, and I love just exploring new places slowly on foot. So it just worked out, and the timing was perfect, like a 2-week. So I'm out here for 2 weeks, and this is day 2. So yesterday was a 17-mile day starting from Providence. We had an amazing event, a kickoff event with the Providence Streets Coalition, which is a local education, organizing, advocacy group in Providence. And so we did this awesome kind of walk event, documenting and talking about pedestrian dignity stuff, which is it's a project that's a part of my creative work. And we finished at this really cool bookstore bar in town where I offered some readings. And so I'm literally I left yesterday morning, 17 miles into a place called East Greenwich, and we left at 6 a.m. this morning, and we're heading to a beach area about 15 miles away today. And on Monday, we have another book event walk in a town called Mystic, Connecticut. So if you know anybody in Mystic, y'all, come find us. Yeah, but it's been amazing. It's been really, and I've been going through I lost my dog, I shared with you a couple days ago. And so, as you said, this has literally been a walking as medicine sort of trip for a lot of ways. So in a lot of ways, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, sending love to Canola and these together. So what comes after, before I get emotional, I'm gonna pivot to your tour. What comes after Connecticut? So you're in Providence, Rhode Island, and then Mystic, and then what's up after that?
Yeah, so after Mystic, it's going to be going towards making our way towards New Haven, Connecticut. And so then after New Haven, we start cutting down, and again, just moving through coastal towns and communities, and then into New York. And so we'll kind of cut our way through the Bronx and then through into the heart of Manhattan, New York City, and we finish with it's really cool. There's some local people who've been jumping in to co-organize a 9-mile public walking event with the book, from Riverside Park to Battery, which is so fun. And so we're gonna all meet at Riverside Park and do a 9-mile walk together. It's a segment walk too. So if you know people in New York City and you don't want to do the whole 9 miles, you can meet us halfway through. We're still figuring out the details, but we're hoping to finish at like a bookstore and do some things at the end of that. But yeah, it'll be fun. And what's been so great about it, even the tour, even the events that I've had in Colorado, or, after this long walk, there's going to be events in Wisconsin, and I'm going to be going to Ireland, as you know. And all of these events are start with like a community connection walk, because it's a book on walking. We can't just, it's so much better to just start moving instead of just sitting and talking about walking, even though I do plenty of that and love it. I really wanted to have movement connected to any kind of gathering. So it's a unique tour of sorts, but I'm really grateful. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. There's nothing better than getting all the Zooming these days. I love the opportunity to be Zooming with you right now, but nothing would beat meeting and walking at one of your walks. And so it's an honor to be able to just get a little bit of a video walking with you and see where you're at. And also, I was curious, so you guys don't do public transit. Do you ever hop on public transit, or you just walk? It's all walk.
It's all walking. I've told my friend, just, flow. Like, there's no, if she or others want to use it, and I'm not, not above it at all. I just love the walk, if I can, but sometimes the blisters and the arches and things show up. So most of our route are, we're near transit options. So we'll see. But at this stage, I'm planning to walk the whole thing. But I take a lot of transit in life in general, but for this one, I really wanted it to be all walking if my body was agreeable to that. We'll see.
Yeah.
To be determined.
Yeah, I totally understand that. Well, I want to ask you too. I love walking, but I've never done these longer walks. Do you have tips for people who are, well, first of all, who might be joining you on a longer walk but have never done it? And then anybody who's just like curious, okay, I've never done something like that. What are some practical tips?
It's a really good question. Yeah,
Band-aids? I don't know. Band-aids, you need band-aids maybe just in case you do get, yeah.
Band-aids, moleskin, having, it's why so for me, which is unique, a lot of people will say, why are you walking on roads? Why aren't you on trails or quieter? And for me, I definitely like to get on the rural roads when I can, or if there are trails, I'll definitely hop on them. But I love the intersection, towns and villages. But from a practical standpoint, filling up on water, using, restroom, having places to stay, food, so I don't have to carry everything on my back. Creating a unique route that is going through communities and towns is strategic also for making kind of longer distance walking with lighter weight. It just makes it more feasible in some ways. You can see, like, environments like this, it's a different kind of tension, and a lot of times the accessibility is so rough. So there's a lot of edges to, doing longer distance in terms of physical ability. But another tip I always have is potentially have a couple people just available to pick you up if needed, to bring you, things that maybe you don't have access to or you run out of. So having kind of a little support team is a good way to kind of breathe into it. And the other thing is, there's so many things. We could spend hours talking about tips around these things, but one of the things is a lot of times when you go longer distance beyond kind of main streets and downtown areas, is you don't have sidewalks or pedestrian access everywhere. And so always, if there are no sidewalks, just giving you a little bit of safety and separation from cars, moving against traffic is a really important thing. So the cars can see you and you can see them. You can kind of navigate your own safety with a little more, rather than trusting that the cars are paying attention to you if you're moving with traffic and they're behind you. So that's a little more of a safety tip. But and the last little thing I guess I'll share is I get really creative I spend some time on Google Maps or just the tools that we have online to kind of loosely create a plan. Like, so what I do is I'll look at where I want to start or where I'm thinking of starting. And then I get a sense of like the amount of miles that my body can handle. And for me, I've learned that 18 to 20 miles is a longer day, but it's definitely doable and not over pushing it. An ideal time frame is 14 to 16 miles for me. And a restful walk when I have all day is like 10 to 12. And that's going to be different for everybody. It's going to be either much less or maybe I know people that love a good 26, 30 mile day. And I'm like, no, that is not me. So I think just figuring out your pace and learning, how your body connects to different distances and terrain and having really good shoes. But I spend time on Google Maps and I just I think about my experience for the day. So can I move through parks and are there some trails to get off the busier roads, but are there some areas where I can fill up with water and get some food? And that's kind of how I play it out. Google Maps and some of these tools are usually underscoring the mileage. So I always add 1 or 2 miles to whatever they say, but they do have the walking feature on them most of the time. And it's about 90% accurate in terms of kind of naming what areas are, accessible to, and I shouldn't even say accessible, what areas are very roughly pedestrian oriented. So about 10% of the time you can't trust it. So you do kind of have to just take a little bit of risk. And that's when, and I know I keep saying the last thing, but the final thing is depending on and reaching out and connecting with local people. I mean, I am always reaching out to locals and just saying, hey, I'm trying to get here. Do you have a recommendation where I could go, or, where I could stay? Sometimes when I'm carrying camping gear, then, I'm leaning into locals a lot, just asking for tips on where to pitch a tent for the night. So it just depends. Yeah.
Okay, now I have the idea. Maybe we're going to need to have you as a featured guest at a roundtable all about practical tips, because this is super interesting. I love it. And you keep saying the last thing. I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be the last thing. I can hear more. So if you're down, let's do that later. I know you're really busy. You got your book, so like later, we'll get into that maybe. And then also I wanted to say the thing about people asking you, why don't you go rural? Well, it's also interesting because your preference to choose these routes is also what leads to your deepening knowledge about infrastructure and inequity and movement that is the heart of pedestrian dignity. So it's really amazing the knowledge you gain just firsthand moving through these spaces.
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, even yesterday on the 17 miles from Providence, I mean, I probably recorded, I don't know, 15, 20 videos of these really complicated stories of access, like looking at apartment buildings and retirement, senior living communities, schools, libraries, and that in relationship to bus routes. And then, kind of breaking down, like in all these different videos, how unsafe, inaccessible, and disconnected moving the way we're made to move is in so many communities across the country. There's a really good report out right now called Dangerous by Design, which just kind of breaks down a lot of the numbers. It's by Smart Growth USA, and you know, they're just really hammering specifically roads like this one, these arterial state-owned transit corridors that are zoned with destinations, schools, like I was saying, apartments, mixed income housing, you know, libraries, hospitals, and they're the most dangerous. I mean, pedestrian fatalities are going up 62% in the last 10 years. These, you see the trucks coming through here, they're getting larger. You know, and you have these corridors where people live and work and go to school, and where the bus picks people up and drops them off, that are the most unsafe for pedestrian mobility. So yeah, that's so much of what the book is about, my friend. It's like the book is not, it's like a mix of inviting practice and story and artistic invitation, because I'm an artist, that's my home. And so I'm just constantly creating and experimenting with how to not only invite and document and storytell around the kind of the injustice or the inequities of pedestrian mobility, but also naming and getting creative around the benefits of why moving this way is so important for our health, for our planet, for connections to each other, for our kids, for families, for non-human species, birds and animals of all kinds, and water systems. Like, the benefits of moving this way are so human and needed. And you look at an environment like this that's surrounded by neighborhoods and community, and it's a there's a lot of grief to not be able to more naturally and in a more healthy way connect and heal and show up as a pedestrian in other ways than just kind of grinding for transportation. And yeah, so that's what this book is all about. It's kind of like that, that's the subtitle, Slow Down, Wake Up and Connect at 1 to 3 miles an hour. Is just like, it's just imperfect, it's inviting kind of artistic exploration around the benefits, but also the barriers of moving the way we're made to move.
Amazing. My internet's starting to get choppy, so I say we'll close out here. And I'm so thankful for just having a moment on day 2 of your launch of this particular walk. And I look forward to hearing more, reading more, as always, following and seeing your content. I feel enriched by knowing you, and you know, what you're showing us there on the video, just this little sliver of space for pedestrians. I so remember that from so many communities I lived in North America, but also communities in Europe. I've seen it. I mean, this is, and as we know in the network, the Walkability Correspondence Network, people all over the world in that network are sharing stories of these slivers of spaces. So your work really hitting home where it needs to, so locally, but also all these other places that you're reaching. And yeah, so it's really powerful. Thank you.
Thank you, friend. Grateful for you always, and how much you weave all these wonderful people. You're a gift.
All right. All right. We're gonna go to audio. I'm gonna stop recording here. Thank you so much.